What's up YouTube community, Bernd here, welcome back to another video lesson. Today we finally discuss a long requested topic. This is the first 7-string guitar lesson. This is also one of the top voted topics on the lesson wishlist on patreon.com/Bernd. My patrons get to decide about the future of this channel and constantly vote on the lesson topics that I'm featuring on here. So if you currently own a 7-string guitar or you think about getting one but you're not quite sure about the benefits and if it's the right thing for you, you will probably enjoy this video lesson a lot. By the end of this lesson you will know how to use interesting extended scales and arpeggios for your riffs and licks, how to effectively use and visualize your knowledge from the 6-string guitar on a 7-string model, and how to sound as creative and unique as possible while doing all that. So let's not waste any more time and let the 7-string madness begin. So in case you missed it, I posted a special video about this guitar last week. This is an Ibanez Prestige RGD 7-string model that I equipped with an Evertune bridge and with Fishman pickups. I prepared something really cool and special for today's practical example. It's a really cool and quite creative riff in my opinion, and it has a lot of little details and tricks hidden in there. And as always, we will check out every single one in detail so you can use them for your own music. The main reason why I went with a cool riff for today's lesson is because of the very common stereotype of 7 or 8-string guitar players only working with the lowest string. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that if you're really into this kind of music, but with today's lesson I want to show you a couple of cool concepts on how you can spice up riffs like that. So this is what we're working on today. As always, you can find the tabs, guitar profiles and practice backing tracks for this practical example on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Bernd. In case you didn't already know, I upload these extremely helpful files for every single lesson that I post here on YouTube, and new members get access to the entire archive immediately. So if you're stuck at home, just like me at the moment, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of input and exercises for your practice routine. So before we dissect today's riff in detail, I want to give you some input on how I visualize scales, arpeggios, chords and more on a 7-string guitar. When you think about it, there are two ways of visualizing your material. I tuned my 7-string guitar one whole step down, so I essentially see it as a 6-string guitar in D standard with an additional A string. So when I look at the fretboard and visualize my scales and arpeggios, I don't really see it in A standard with an additional high D string. I see it in D standard with an additional low A string. With that, I want to encourage you not to be intimidated by 7-string guitars. You don't have to learn a completely new system, new scales, new arpeggios, new chords and all of that. You can just see a regular 7-string guitar as a 6-string guitar in E standard with an additional low B string. I tuned it down a whole step and once again see it as a 6-string guitar in D standard with an additional low A string. So all the scales and arpeggios I learned with my 6-string instrument still apply right here, I just have to extend them on the lowest string. In the beginning I can essentially just think in octaves to extend the notes on the lowest string. So when I'm playing this basic scale fragment right here, and I'm not really sure about the notes on the lowest string, I can just think in octaves. So when I'm playing up to right here, I can just think in the octave interval backwards and I have my note in the scale on the lowest string. So I can figure out my own extended 3-note per string fingerings for all the different scales with note location and the octave trick in the beginning. So for today's riff I started out with a cool arpeggio shape instead of just playing power chords all the time. I really like the sound of the low strings right here, because normally when we hear the term arpeggios we think about sweep picking sections up in higher sections of the fretboard. So please remember that you can also use them for your riffs. They sound really cool with low tuned 7-string guitars. So here I'm just playing the root, that's C in our case, the major 3rd E, the perfect 5th G, so the most basic C major arpeggio that I could play, C, E, G, and then I'm adding the major 7th to get a C major 7th arpeggio. So I'm playing C, E, hammer onto G, and then up to B, the major 7th, and that sounds really cool and suspenseful, especially due to the low tuning. And then I'm adding another very interesting note. I'm adding F sharp on top of the arpeggio. That is essentially the very dissonant, cool sounding Lydian interval, so we get a lot of suspenseful tension out of this cool arpeggio shape. And then I made sure to include a slide, so I'm not just playing 8th notes all the time, and I'm ending on the 9th, another very interesting note. So I think that's much more interesting than just playing a power chord right here. Up next, I keep the cool dissonant flavor by working with perfect fourths. So I'm playing F sharp and B right here, perfect fourth, just like the top of a power chord, but not including the root, so just the perfect fourth interval. And then I'm playing B and E, another perfect fourth interval, but I'm keeping C as my bass note, so I get this really cool dissonant sound that I like a lot. So we have a lot of dissonance in the second measure. This is how I played that one. So I'm playing a pull-off right here and end up with this really dissonant minor second interval. This is probably my favorite part of the riff. So once again, up to this point. Up next, I'm just playing a basic A minor arpeggio, but of course I make sure to include my low A string to make use of the extended range I have available right here. I'm using the arpeggio picking approach once again, where I'm picking 2 notes per string, so I'm not just playing 8th notes, and I'm also including the 9th B right here in the arpeggio to make it a bit more interesting. So once again, really slow, I'm playing the low open A string and I'm muting it just a little bit. I'm letting it ring over the arpeggio, but I don't want it to ring like that. I want it to ring like that, so I'm muting it just a little bit. Up next, I'm going for another very dissonant arpeggio. I'm playing the open low D string, once again muted like with the previous arpeggio, with the previous example. But then instead of just going for a D major arpeggio, where we would have to roll our finger like that, we are playing something more interesting. So instead of just playing D right here, we are raising it a semitone and get this really cool suspenseful sound once again, and I'm making sure to let the notes ring right here, so they're intentionally overlapping. And I think I saved the best for last. This is a really cool tapping trick that I'm playing here. There's nothing too special going on with the left hand. I'm just playing basic power chords that turn into major shapes for C and D. But I'm mirroring the notes 1 octave higher with my tapping hand. So I'm just visualizing the same chord shape 1 octave higher on the neck, and I'm tapping the notes with my right hand and pulling off, releasing to the lower notes. So something like that. That is a pretty cool sound in my opinion. So once again, this is how it sounds when I play it a bit faster. So I think this is a pretty cool trick. And then I'm sliding all the way up here to E. And of course I couldn't resist, I had to end with a little shred phrase. We're just playing an E major arpeggio and then I'm tapping another very dissonant note. This is something I really like to do and that we discussed quite often already. I'm just playing a minor second interval. So I'm just sweeping up the arpeggio and I'm tapping the note right below the one that I'm playing to get this cool minor second effect. Now here's the entire section played for you again once more. Make sure to watch out for all these tiny details and tricks in the context of the entire riff. So in the end, don't forget to download the tabs, guitar profiles and practice backing tracks for the entire section on patreon.com/Bernd in case you really want to learn it in detail. Also make sure to subscribe to join this community today and to never miss another free guitar lesson again. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and a comment in case you have any questions about this riff. I really hope that you enjoyed our very first 7th string lesson on the channel. Please let me know in the lesson votings if we should feature this topic more often in the future. I will hopefully see you again in the next video lesson. All the best and have fun practicing until then.